Hello everybody. So I've realised that we're in a nice little crossover space at the minute where there are probably three types of people on the group. One is the people that have just joined us who might just be starting their journey. Those people have been with us a while and who are on a bit of an upward and downward curve. And then those people who have now reached a big milestone, which could be a year. I'm not giving in, Shay. I'm selling the bloody bike. So those of you who have got to a year. So I thought what would be most useful today is to do a bit of a dry January 101. So to tell people who are beginning on their journey what to expect, but also to talk a little bit about what you might expect from sticking now that you've got to a particular milestone, be that 3 months or a year. So I'm going to try and cover quite a lot. And I know it won't hit all the bases for you, so do try and ask me questions on the way through, but as we've got quite a diverse group, I thought that would be worth doing. I also wanted to say that this year I'm hoping to do a couple of other things. One is that I would like to get more external people to do webinars, and I've already got a few people lined up this month. But I also wondered if any of you guys would like to do a webinar as well. It can just be about sharing your experience, or it could be, you know, like I was talking to Kim the other day about maybe she needs to do a webinar on how to have a disco bath like Kim, and she could show us around her disco bathroom. Or some of you might have something else that you want to share. But we can come on to that at the end. But I would like very much for some of you to think about sharing your story and doing even a short 15-minute webinar in the group sometime in the future. So the things that are going to guide today's webinar is, some of you may have seen these, but in the file section here and free to people who join up in January are my little booklets that I wrote last year for you, some of you guys, to get through dry January. Hang on a minute, where have they all gone? I'm sure there's like several here and I've just merged them all together. But there are a load of these little booklets in the file section. You're free to download those at any time, but I'm going to use those as a reference point today because there's lots of really good stuff in it. And for those of you who have already successfully got through some of these hurdles, I would really like you to share any advice and tips along the way. So this is interactive, people. Right. So first of all, planning. Now, I still don't believe to this day that I'm telling other people to think ahead and plan, because quite frankly, it's the thing that I'm least good at. In fact, I have used so many different planning and project management tools for Club Soda that it's ridiculous. And the one called Trello that's meant to be used for tech build, all I've managed to do is categorise the food that is in our food cupboards for when I make shopping lists, and not actually used it for tech planning at all. So it's really bad. But what I do know, and what I do now know from my experience and from the experienced people in the group, is the more planning you put in, the more likely you are to succeed. But planning sounds really boring. What sounds more interesting is to say practice. And I think that actually what planning really is a practice. And you know, we talk about mindfulness a lot, about putting aside 10-15 minutes a day to sit with your eyes closed and be quiet and calm, and how positive that is for you, and that over time that mindfulness will develop and grow, and you will get more and more from it. Well, I do believe that changing your drinking is about practice, and part of that practice is about putting some time aside every day, even if it's about 15 minutes or so, to plan your day ahead and to think through what's coming your way. And actually, if you think about it, those of you that have been had successful streaks, you know, you've done, those of you who got through Christmas Day, even if you might not have got through some of the days afterwards, those of you who took several months off and then things might not have gone to plan, but you did several months, I suspect if you look back, you can characterise that the reason why you got through some of those months is that you had practiced, you'd put a lot of effort in, and actually when things started to come off the rails a bit were when you were caught unaware, when you stopped putting so much time and effort in, when you got a little bit confident, maybe a little bit cocky, or it might be that there was a thing that happened that you totally hadn't planned for. So see see planning as a really important part of your process of change, and allowing you to reflect and learn about yourself on the way. Because there is something about giving up alcohol that you learn stuff about yourself that's quite unexpected. I call it like 100 little epiphanies, that you realise that last time you were in this situation you were completely smashed, or that you've got feelings that you hadn't really noticed before. I noticed things going on in my body far more than I ever used to, and they're all small little epiphanies, and actually writing them down and thinking about them as part of your process is really important. So one of the things I suggest you do is to not necessarily make a commitment to not drink, although that's what your ultimate aim is, but to make a strong commitment to put half an hour aside every day, or 15 minutes aside every day, to plan ahead, the day ahead and the week ahead, so that you can begin to plan through and think through all the eventualities, all of the pitfalls, all of the people, all of the situations, all of the times that you know that you might find it most difficult to not have a drink. And the more effort you put into that, and the more you then put things around you, and we'll talk about that in a minute, put things around you to deal when those situations arise, the chances are that you will be able to stick to your goal for a longer and longer sprint. It also means, more crucially and more importantly, is that if things don't quite go to plan, then you're more likely to be able to pick yourself up again and get back on with it. Rather than seeing your fall as a failure, you'll be able to see it as part of the process. And so it's not just about planning to get you through not drinking, it's about helping give you the resilience and strength you need when things might not go quite to plan. So some of you will use paper, and obviously for those of you that know that I don't really do paper, this is my sort of ironic, I've bought some paper, right? I'm putting this next to my bed. And I'm trying very hard not to give Lucy the task of reminding me to do this, because otherwise I've just completely outsourced my responsibility. Although it's very tempting, obviously. It's got square paper in the back. Well, that's different. That might change everything. Anyway, so start to put some time aside and begin to plan. But saying planning is really very good. But what does that really mean in real terms? Now, I think there are a couple of things that you can begin to plan. You might want to have a bit of a mammoth session to begin with. The first is to do a little bit of reflection, right? For example, what type of drinker were you? You know whether you were someone who just couldn't say no in the pub but never drank at home, or somebody who always drinks when you get home at 6 o'clock and you want to do the cooking. Or you might be somebody who always has a drink once the kids have gone to bed. You might be like me, you might be a bit of an extreme sport drinker where I was, really pushing through, showing the world that I could harm myself and still somehow manage to get to work the next day. There was an element of definitely self-harm around my drinking, built on a very long history of being a big old drinker anyway. So you already know a little bit about your drinking, but there's something very powerful about beginning to write that down, because you'll be able to see where some of the patterns are. And actually, in hindsight, I now know a lot more about my drinking patterns. I do realise it was linked. I was always a heavy drinker anyway. Then my drinking went up when I was in a job that I didn't enjoy. So I know that jobs I enjoy are really important to me. I also knew that I drank when I was tired. I now know I drank when I was hungry. And I know that I did both. I drank alcohol before I ever drank water or ate food, and so I now realise that a lot more about myself. But that reflection is really useful for you to do. Are there people that are your big triggers? People that you can never say no to, because you might need to find a way to manage those people over the next month. And this month for you is really about a hard reset. So it doesn't matter if you take some time for yourself this month. You can pick up some friendships a few weeks down the line, but begin to have that reflection. Reflect about what type of drinker you were. Think about whether you used it to manage your mood, whether it's because you feel you're the social animal and you can't be social without it, whether there's a time of day you habitually drank, and begin to have a little think about that. And also write down the things that you hope will improve through changing your drinking. And please don't just only say weight. I will tell you now that alcohol really screws with your metabolism. And we've all got different metabolisms anyway. I have got the metabolism of maybe like a sloth, naturally. Alcohol on top of it made me have a metabolism of 2 sloths. I think that's basically how that works. But everyone's different, and it can take it can take quite a while for your metabolism to get back in shape. And it may be that while you're giving up, foodstuffs may be quite an important part for you. But there's something about getting that drinking under control. Now, I might come back to this in a minute, but alcohol screws around with your blood sugar levels, just like eating tons of sugar does. And so even though you might not have eaten lots of food before, you may then feel that you're missing something and you want some food. And so you need to get your body back in balance. I'm trying to do nutritional advice, and I'm not really the nutritionist. I'm hoping to get someone to do that for us shortly. But I'll talk a little bit more about that. But there isn't a single bit of your body that alcohol doesn't affect. It affects your brain, and it's affected the hardwiring of your brain over many, many years. It affected my eyes. I had very sort of not orangey eyes, creamy coloured eyes. I used to look at my eyes in the mirror with a hangover and go, oh, is that the result of drinking? Is this wrong? Am I ill? Am I dying? They're now very clear, actually. It affects your skin. I was somebody for whom, and this shows how different alcohol can be for people. I was someone for whom alcohol showed massively on my face. Within a month, my face would go, and even though I'm putting weight back on now, it's not quite going on in the face in the same way as alcohol did. It affects your teeth. My dentist asked me if I was bulimic, and I said no, I'm a cider drinker. That's how terrible that was. It affects, your metabolism, your heart. It affects absolutely everything, and it will affect us all in different ways because we're all different. And so the improvements you might see will be different for everybody. So do make a long list. Some of them could be very small. I would like my mood to be better, 10 more days of the month this month than they would be normally. Because there will be days when you will be miserable because you're not drinking, and that's okay, and that's normal, and that's to be expected. But there will be days where you feel more energetic and more lively. There'll be days where you'll be craving water. There'll be days when you want to go for a snooze at 4 p.m. There'll be a day that you feel so deprived you'll want to stamp your feet like a small child in the supermarket and sit on the floor and cry and bang your toys on the floor. There will be days like that, but there will also be days where you think, I think I've just made the right decision for me, and it's the best thing I've ever done. So try and catalogue all of the things that you hope to see some improvement in, but don't see them as a definitive list. And if you don't get through them all, then, that's it. I'm crossing them off, and that's clearly a failure. Don't do that. There are things that you can use to begin to see how alcohol's affected you and where you might improve. And that's a bit about what I call quantifying yourself. I'm very convinced that changing your drinking is a bit like a science experiment where you are both the subject and the scientist. Only you will know how alcohol affects you. We may be kidding ourselves in many, many ways and thinking, well, I drink the same as Doris, who lives next door, and she seems okay, and all of that sort of stuff. But only you really know how it's been affecting you and how you feel when you drink, which means only you can really work out what the parameters are that you're testing during your month off booze. And also, one of the things that you will be testing is what happens if things don't quite go to plan. And again, doing some reflecting, doing some planning, setting out some personal data and some personal variables will be really helpful. And that can be things that range from very easy to measure things like your sleep, if you've maybe got a Fitbit. Wait a minute, I've got one here somewhere. Mine is currently stuck together with super glue. It's not very sophisticated. But there may be some things that you can measure quite easily, like sleep, like walking, like even drinking water, you can even measure that. And there'll be some things like mood that you might want to find different ways to register, but do see yourself as a science experiment. It also works the same if you're going on a diet, which is my challenge. It also works the same if you're trying to do any other behaviour change, because you're trying, so if some of you are going to take up meditation this January, then you will be able to see some of these changes happen as well. So begin to make your plan, set out your personal variables, know what it is that you're measuring. Now, the next big thing is, I think, the most exciting subject and the one where this community can help each other the most. And that is about distractions. Now, the taxi driver today, I had in stitches actually, because both the taxi drivers today were non-drinkers, which might explain why they were both on duty on January the 1st. Ooh, excuse me, I've just been drinking kombucha. But I was having a discussion today with the taxi driver because he's trying to give up cake. And he was saying, well, what are your top tips then? Because I heard you talk about alcohol. What are your top tips for cake? And I talked to him about discomfort. I said, normally we feel we're a failure because we get this craving and we don't know what to do about it. And then we worry because we feel we've got an addiction because we have a craving. But actually what we're feeling is discomfort. We're feeling discomfort because actually in this quite well-off society that we live in, we're very used to indulging on whatever our whim is at a certain point of time. And we are used to having alcohol at certain points of time with certain people in certain places. And when we can't do that, when we've been used to doing that, we may have been used to be doing that for, 20 years, we feel like we're deprived. We feel like we haven't got what we deserve. We feel like we're not treating ourselves. We feel like we can't do what we want. And I'm an adult. Why shouldn't I be able to do what I want? I can't believe this world is telling me that I can't have a drink when I really want it. That's basically the conversation that goes on in your head. And what you're feeling is a massive amount of discomfort. And there's a wonderful thing to remember about discomfort is that it won't kill you. Ta-da! It's just a thing you have to go through. And that discomfort will lessen and lessen the longer you manage to keep to your goal. So one thing to remember if you're thinking about ditching your goal or falling off the wagon is that you've put a lot of effort into dealing with the discomfort that you'll be feeling over the next few weeks. Don't let that go to waste. But also know that discomfort, when you feel it, is exactly that. It is just discomfort. It's not, a physical dependency. It's not an out of order craving. It's discomfort because you can't do something you're normally used to doing. And instead, you need to put something in its place so that you can ride that discomfort. And you need to know what that is pretty quickly, because your inner saboteur is very good at sneaking in very quickly during moments of discomfort and going, well, this feels really hard. Why don't you just have a drink? And what you need to do is very quickly go, aha, I'm feeling discomfort because I normally have a drink around this time. I'm going to do A, B, and C instead. And that's what I call building your survival kit. So what is it that you're going to put in this survival kit? Well, survival kit are people, places, and things, really. Firstly, you might want some quick fixes, something that you can draw on really quickly. So you might have, a healthy naked bar in your back pocket, or you might have some good dark chocolate. You might have some alternative drinks in the fridge. You might have some alcohol-free beers. You might have some chewing gum. I don't know. I'm obviously talking about things that you can actually pick up and physically have. They're not the only things, but you need to make a list of things that are really quickly accessible, because you really need to make sure you jump in there really quickly and don't let that internal saboteur squeeze in. You can go, right, this is discomfort. I need to drink a pint of water because being thirsty is a really good trigger for drinking alcohol. I need to eat something because that's a really good trigger for drinking alcohol. In fact, the feelings for hungry and thirsty are virtually the same, and we often confuse being hungry when actually we're thirsty. So having a pint of water to drink is really, really good. So I'm just checking you're all still there. Are you all still there? I'm hoping so. So anyway, share your ideas for what you've put in your survival kit if you're some of our people who've got to 365 days. Same if you're on a diet or anything else. Make sure you think through things. And you might not know, one of the lovely distractions I had when I first gave up drinking was I bought a soda stream and I started buying strange and odd drinks from across the world and trying them out in my soda stream and getting some new concoctions together. And that provided two distractions. It gave me something to drink really quickly, but it also gave me something to do that took about 10 minutes to search on the internet, to look at. It actually created a wonderful conversation between one of my biggest cheerleaders, which was my friend Nick, who's a real foodie, and we would sit on Facebook because she lives in Bristol, and she would go, "Oh, Laura, have you seen this drink?" And she was actively looking for drinks for me, and then I'd plan when she was coming to visit, so we'd get a load of these drinks in and we'd try them together and all of that sort of stuff. So actually it created a number of different roles in my change in my drinking journey. It gave me an immediate satisfaction that I was doing something. It gave me a 20-minute finding something new distraction, and it gave me something to talk about with one of my biggest cheerleaders, who is really, really important. So begin to make your list, get your book, or get your, I can't show you my phone because I'm talking to you on it, but get your phone and start writing lists. Doesn't matter where you are, start writing them on the tube and everything. Test them out. These are things to try out. They may not all turn out to be good. You may want to get suggestions from other people. Do not feel at all upset or ashamed about asking in the group what other people have used as their put in their survival kit. I've always got great ideas for other drinks that you can buy, and you know what, if spending some evenings browsing online for drink options is what will work for you, then that's absolutely fine. Sharing them with the group is even better because we all get to share in that too. So put together your kit. It might also be things that take 20 minutes, like a walk around the block, do 20 push-ups. And that would take me about half an hour, I think. But, things that might take you about 20 minutes. Do a bit of yoga, online yoga, find a little exercise video on YouTube. Anything that just takes you away from that sensation of depriving yourself. Because all that'll do is you'll walk around your house going, well, I want to have a drink. I want to have a drink. I don't understand why I can't have a drink. And you need to stop that conversation. Distract it totally and go and do something else. So I cannot underestimate how important this is to your journey, and how beginning to write that list and evolving that list is a really important thing to do. Should I take a breath? It's an excuse to drink more kombucha. Cool. So the next thing is about creating some cheerleaders, and I talked about my best friend, who is one of my best cheerleaders, for me, just by her taking an interest in the journey that I was doing. And I realise now that it was very subtle, but actually she was probably quite important for me to change my drinking. And she didn't need to do lots. She didn't need to sit with me every day and make sure my hand didn't go near a beer. But it was just that she was interested in my journey. She asked how things were going. She would find things that she thought were useful for me and sent them to me. And I can't, don't ever underestimate how important that is. And so you may have a partner, you may have a flatmate, you may have a good friend. And I do highly recommend trying to turn them into cheerleaders. And if you can't turn them into cheerleaders, at least stop them from being people who will try and distract you from your goal. And I'm a strong believer in being very clear with people and what you want from them. And it's really hard for us to do because as humans, we're very bad at asking for help and asking what we need. And I was very touched by Nadia's post this week, which some of you may have seen. She's been on an up and down year as well, and she's now got to 7 months. But she started her post about her 7 months today by saying the best thing she ever did this time last year was to ask people for help. And she did. She reached out to a number of people and she asked for help, and she started that journey. And while that journey stopped and started and had a stuttery beginning, it would never have started if she hadn't have asked for help. So do think about friends and say to them, look, it's dry January and we know lots of people do a dry January, but actually it's really important for me that I do a dry January this year. I'm worried about my relationship with alcohol, or I've decided that I want to change my drinking for my health, or I've decided that alcohol is something that I don't want so much present in my life, whatever words you want to use. And then say to them, I would really appreciate it if you could help me buy. Now, it may be that all you want them to do is to not push you to have an alcoholic drink when you're at the pub. Or you may just want them to go to the cinema more often in January with you rather than to the pub where you normally go. Or it may be something more fundamental, like changing your home routine, which some people have suggested, where you might change the way you cook and the way you eat in order to reduce your ability to consume alcohol. So whatever it is, and whoever it is in your life, you might want to think about them and the request you're making of them. Even better is if you can get somebody who will help you more proactively. But most of all, what you don't want are people to try and blow you off course. And so do start to think about who those difficult people might be. And some of them will just be people that you just know you need to have a good put down to. I know that Joe, who's one of the admins on the group, had a number of good put downs for colleagues at work. But some of those might be more serious conversations with partners or housemates. And again, do call on the group for help with that and how you might have those conversations. There's a few blogs on the Club Soda Guide also about how to have difficult conversations. But the most important thing to remember, everybody, is this is you, your body, your journey. You are responsible for you. Nobody else is responsible for you. No one else is going to make you happier. No one else is going to make you cleverer. No one else is going to make you, whatever it is that you want to be. Can't think of other things right now. But nobody else is responsible for that. You are responsible for you, and you are not responsible for them. You are not responsible for their happiness. It's not going to make them unhappy that you are not drinking anymore. They are responsible for their own happiness, and you're responsible for yours. So remember, you don't need other people's permission to not drink. What you want is their understanding, their help, and for them not to bully you, basically, to go against a goal that you're trying to do. And I know it's hard because these will be people that we probably haven't had conversations with that are very personal in nature in the past, or we don't want to expose stuff about ourselves. But the best way to do it is to, again, write it down, think about the people, think about what that relationship is and what a proportionate response may be, and know what you will say to that person if they try and push you into doing something you don't want to do. No one should push you to do anything you don't want to do. So have plans for those people. And it might be that in your first month, you might want to avoid some people as well. It's okay to lie. Little white lies. They're lies about protecting you and something you want to do. So if you're always washing your hair in January because it's washing your hair January, did they not know? Or that you can't possibly drink in January because you're doing veganuary and you'd heard that that beer was made with small pussycats. I don't know, whatever you feel is right to say to that person, then do it. And if it's a little white lie, that's okay. If it's about avoiding them for a month until you feel stronger, that's okay too. Because this is about you and your happiness and not about anybody else. So you can't make me happy by giving me the biscuit today, because it's my responsibility to make myself happy. I really wanted that biscuit. I thought about eating it last night, actually. I feel very proud of myself that I didn't eat it last night. Anyway, right. So what might your little daily planning routine be? Well, first of all, it doesn't need to be very complicated. It doesn't need to be very long. You can spend as long as you like over it. But first of all, commit. Make a commitment. Commit to a day not drinking. Today, I am not drinking. The second is to review the day ahead for all those possible pitfalls that might come your way and know what you will do. You know, are you going to always have a bottle of non-alcoholic beer in your handbag or your bag? Are you going to always have some Haribo? Are you going to have some dark chocolate? Are you going to have a witty line to say to everyone? Whatever it is, what things do you think might come up in the day and how might you deal with them? If you're somebody who starts thinking about a drink at 4 o'clock because it's getting to the end of the work day, what are you going to do when that thought comes into your head at 4 o'clock? Because remember, it's only a thought. It's not an order. It's a thought. It's not a command. You don't have to do it, but you do have to make sure you know what you're going to do instead. So, commit to not drinking today. Review the day ahead so you can manage it, and then replace. So what do you replace it with if that craving arises, if that situation arises, if you have a really awful day at work, what is it you're going to do? Make sure you know what you're going to put in its place. You might want to have a list of things so you know what you might do. I'm going to do a lot more cinema this year. So if anyone wants to go to the cinema, if anyone's got cheap 2-for-1 cinema ticket nights, I'm your best date for that night. Otherwise, I think I'm going to be going to Peckham Cinema, which is only £4.99 all year. Anyway, I digress. What else was I going to talk to you about? Yes, so I've talked about discomfort. I've talked about I've lost my pages. What have I done, you see? I've lost my pages. Oh, whoops. This year I will be more organised and find the middle bits of my booklet. Okay, the other thing I was going to talk briefly about was your internal saboteur. I was going to talk a bit about calories and exercise, but to be honest, in this group, we're all people who know we need a little bit more help with drink, and we don't need to be told that alcohol is really bad for us in terms of calories. What I would say is, and if weight loss and fitness is one of your goals, it's not just calories around alcohol, it's the calories you eat because of alcohol, which you all know about. But if you're taking those lovely multivitamins from Boots and you're drinking, then you may as well not bother taking the multivitamins from Boots, because alcohol affects your stomach lining, and you don't absorb those vitamins as well. You don't even absorb the vitamins properly from the food you're eating, let alone the extra multivitamins from Boots. It dehydrates you, it affects your muscles ability to repair. So those manics who go out jogging on a hangover are actually putting themselves at more risk of damage to their muscles because of the dehydration from alcohol, and their workout probably isn't anywhere near as effective as they think it is. So it does rob you of all the vitamins and minerals. It does dehydrate you. It doesn't do you a lot of good, and the energy, it just saps you of so much energy. You're not likely to go to the gym the following day. So I didn't want to dwell on that too much, but I suspect we'll come back over it. So I guess the last thing I want to sort of pull on, because we've done 33 minutes, is the fact that I know this because I look at all of you very often, and when you join the group, I look at who you are. I look at your smiley faces, and I hear what you say. And what I know for definite is people that join Club Soda are pretty clever people. None of us are stupid. We all know that drinking has screwed us up a bit. We're all a bit disappointed with ourselves for having got to this position. We all would like to somehow be a normal drinker like other people we know, but that's not right for us. We don't quite understand why, but we all know it's got to us at some point. And so we do a lot of beating ourselves up. We should know better, blah, 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 blah. You know, my dad was an alcoholic. I should know better, but, you know, I didn't. Alcohol, you know, affected my brain in a way that was very compelling for me. But in amongst all of this, we all have very amazing natural personal strengths. We all do well in different domains of our lives. We all manage to do, you know, run families. Is that what you do with families? Do you run them? I don't know, that sounds a bit like slaves and drug running, and that maybe not the right word. But we all manage families. We've all got jobs that we hold down. We've got careers. We've done amazing things with our time in the past. We're warm and generous to other people. It's clear and obvious from what I see in the group that we have an amazing set of very talented, warm, kind and generous people. But those are strengths that are able to help you in your journey ahead. And I want you to begin to think about what your strengths are and be candid. And it may be that you want to ask some other people, you know, what do you think my strengths are? What are the things that I bring to this friendship or this relationship? Maybe you're in a relationship and you need to ask your partner what it is that attracted them in the first place. It's probably a conversation you've not had for a long time. You may want to ask other people what strengths they see in you and what draws them towards you. You may want to think about things that you've done in work that might seem very functional, but they are your strengths. You may be good with words, you may be a good communicator, you may be a good planner, in which case I probably need your help. You may be great at taking action. So I'm very action orientated. I'm not very good at at planning, about taking a long period of time to do something. I'm very much an activator. I want to get on and do things now. You may be analytical, you may be ambitious. Lucy's brilliant on spreadsheets, but that I can see also spreads into other areas of his life where he's very analytical and he thinks through things and he looks at the pros and cons. What an amazing skill is that? I don't do that. I'm just, all from gut instinct. But we've all got our own strengths, but those strengths will get you through. And it's really important to begin to, when you've probably been through a period of guilt around your drinking and you're not sure how you've ended up where you are, to actually sit back and reflect and say, actually, I've done these amazing things in my life. I've got these amazing people in my life. I can do this, I can do that. How am I going to use these things to help me get me through? And in fact, if I think about it in hindsight, the thing that got me through, there were a number of things that, for me, it was like a perfect storm of things that happened all at once when I gave up drinking. I changed my environment by starting a new relationship, and I ended up, getting the tube to Greenwich, often to meet my partner, and then she gave up with me. So that meant I had somebody else to care about in this whole process. It wasn't just about me, it was about her sobriety. I got excited about new drinks, new ideas. I went on this frenzy. It became an activator type thing where I wanted to find the things that were going to keep us both on the straight and narrow. It became a little mini campaign based on two people. My natural compassion stretched over to her, and therefore this was a journey I was doing for more than just me. I also, I can be quite belligerent. Beth, you say you're stubborn. I'm quite belligerent. And so I managed to recharacterize how I felt about being slightly rebellious. And so I wanted to test going into the pub and not drinking and saying out loud and proud to people, oh, I was just so good at drinking. It's everyone else's turn now. So they're all my natural strengths and they're mine. They're not yours, but you've got your own strengths. But begin to look at how you can turn them to help you. And it may be you want to make the longest list ever of things that will be the greatest distractions for you. You may want to try a whole load of different distractions because what you like is variety. You like trying out new things in order to find the right thing for you. It may be that you're very caring and you might want to find somebody else who needs a buddy on this whole journey to help you do that. It may be that you are quite persistent and so you might want to look at how you make that persistence work for you in changing your drinking. So again, you have lots of natural strengths, and I'm always really clear in Club Soda. We never say good luck because you have already got the natural strengths that you need to be able to do this. It's not going to be easy. It takes hard work. It takes practice, which is where we started on this. But most of all, you already have everything that you need to change your drinking. The fact that you're here, you've made a decision, you've made a commitment, you're starting on a journey is a massive, massive part of that already. And now you need to be able to lean on the rest of the group, talk to us, watch the webinars every Sunday, but most of all, really rally your own personal inner strengths because you are stronger, far, far stronger than you think, and use them to beat back that internal saboteur every time it tries to pop up and tell you that you can't do something. Because trust me, you can, because look at how far you've come, look at who you are, look at the people and places and things that you've got in your life. They're all really important. So I'm going to leave that there for today. No, I'm not. I'm not leaving that there for today. I'm lying. I wanted to say a couple of things to the people that are stickers. Because those of you who've got to 365 days or 7 months or wherever you are now may be thinking, right, that's it. Lay back now, I've got this sorted. And I will tell you now that 4.5 years on, I'm still not totally sorted. I'm still dealing with all of the fallout from years and years of drinking, which is actually having to reconnect with my emotions. It's really difficult. I'm realising that I still need to find ways to deal with stress and with self-doubt and with self-esteem. I've realised that they haven't gone away just because I've given up drinking. In fact, they've become more obvious and more present, and now I have to deal with them. So these things don't go away. So your practice of your sobriety will just change. And it may be that you use coming onto the group and helping other people as part of your keeping to your sobriety. It may be that you might find new goals that you want to achieve. There will always be times where suddenly alcohol sneaks back into your thoughts and you think, where the hell has that come from? I'd really thought I'd got this nailed. That's normal. It's to be expected. And there will be things that will take you totally off guard. And so don't ever forget that list of things that are good distractions for you, that list of things that are alternatives, the things that make you feel good. Are all important for you still, and there's no better time than now to revisit that list and see what's important for you now, because you're allowed to change. You know, things might make different things may make you happier now, and you may need to revise that list. So do begin to look at those things. The worst thing that can happen is to let ambivalence come in and say, well, maybe because I've got it licked, I can drink again now. Now, it may be that you can. I'm not one to judge. This is your personal experiment, and it's you. But just recognise that ambivalence around your drinking is incredibly normal. The bit where you go, well, it wasn't that bad after all, and I've clearly got it nailed, I'm feeling confident, boom. And we know from some experience that for some people that has then led into them drinking more and more and more, and then having to come back again. It may be a process you need to go through, but just recognise that ambivalence is a way that your inner saboteur creeps in after a period of time where you're quite confident about what you've done. So, and I see it all the time in the group. That's not me trying to tell you what to do and saying that you should never try and moderate. That's me saying, beware that that's actually ambivalence, and it's your inner saboteur saying to you that you think it'll all be all right now, and actually it might not be. Okay, so what else was I going to say? For those of you who are new to the group, then we have got a discount with Dry Drinker. So if you go on to the Club Soda page and go on to Experts and Perks, is that what it's called on the website? Anyway, there's a bit that's called Drink Suggestions. And the discount code is Club Soda VIP, and you'll get a discount code, a little bit of a discount, and do use that because those guys have been really supportive of us as well. Most importantly is you can get a mixed case, and then if you've got any left over from your mixed case that you don't like, who's going to take them? There'll be somebody in the group who will take them, trust me.